This is the seventh dialogue between J. Krishnamurti and David Bohm in Ojai, California, 1980.
Should we start where we left off?
All right.
Or something new?
Well, what do you think?
Huh?
Or what do you suggest?
I don't know. Are we saying, sir, that human beings are still behaving with the animal instincts?
Yes, I think we were discussing that the other day, and the animal instincts may apparently be overpowering in their intensity and speed, and especially with young children. It may seem that it's only natural for them to respond with the animal instinct.
So that means we're still, after a million years or 10 million years, whatever years, we are still instinctively behaving like our ancestors.
Well, in some ways, I mean, probably it's complicated by thought, that the animal instincts have now become entangled with thought, and the thing is getting, in some ways, worse.
Some ways far worse.
Because all these instincts of hatred now become directed by thought and sustained by thought, so that they are more subtle and more dangerous.
And during all these many, many centuries, we haven't found a way, a method, a system, or something that will move us away from that track. Is that it?
Well, that's one point. Yeah, that's one of the difficulties, surely. That when people begin to get angry with each other, the anger builds up. And they can't seem to do anything about it. That they may try to control it, but then that doesn't work, right?
X, as you were saying, behaves, let's suppose, naturally, or she's not responding to the animal instinct. What place has such insight, we'll call it, in human society? Huh?
Yes, well...
None at all?
Well, in the society as it is, it cannot be accommodated, because the society is organized under the assumption that pleasure and pain and fear are going to rule, except when you control it. Or say friendliness is a kind of animal instinct too. People have become friendly for instinctive reasons.
People have become
friendly sometimes for reasons similar to animal instinct, and they may become enemies for similar reasons. So I think that some people would say that we should be rational. You see, that if we want to answer your question, see, there was a period during the 18th century, say the Age of Reason.
The Age of Reason, yes.
When they said man could be rational, he could choose to be rational and bring about harmony everywhere.
But he hasn't.
But it got worse. You see, it led to the French Revolution and to the terror and so on. And after that, people didn't have so much faith in reason as a way of coming out of it.
So where does that lead us? I mean, we were talking really about insight. That it actually changes the nature of the brain itself.
Yes, we discussed that yesterday, that by dispelling the darkness,
Huh?
by dispelling the darkness in the brain, it allowed
Yes.
the brain to function in a new way.
Yes. Thought has been operating in darkness, creating its own darkness, and functioning in that.
Yeah.
And insight is like, as we said, a flash which breaks down the darkness. And then that insight, clearing the darkness, then does it act, function rationally?
Yes, well, we went into that the mind will then function rationally in the sense of perception, we discussed, rather than just by rules of reason.
Yes.
That there's a sort of a freely flowing reason. See, some people identify reason with certain rules of logic, which would be mechanical.
Would be mechanical, yes.
Yeah, but reason as a form of perception of order.
So we are saying that insight is perception.
Yeah, so it's even the flash of light, which makes perception possible.
Possible. Right, that's it.
It's even more fundamental than perception.
So insight is the flash, is pure perception. And from that perception there is action, which is then sustained by rationality. Is that it?
Yes.
That's right.
Yes, the rationality being perception of order, I would say.
Yes. So would you say insight, perception, and order?
Yeah.
That order is not mechanical,
Yes.
because it's not based on logic.
No rules. You say.
No rules, let's put it that way better. It's not based on rules. Then that means insight, perception, action, order, so then we come to the question, is insight continuous, or is it flash by flash?
No, we went into that and I said that
Yes.
was neither. It was a wrong question in a way.
Yes.
That we have to look at it differently.
So it is not time.
Not time bound. That is, it's
Time
not,
binding.
Yeah.
Yes,
That
we said that.
is,
So now let's get further, a little further. That means we said so, didn't we? Insight is the elimination of darkness, which is the very center of the self, which is the self creates this darkness, right?
yes. Well,
And so insight dispels that very center.
yes. With the darkness, perception is not possible.
Possible, right?
It's blindness in a way.
So
Right.
then what next? No. I'm an ordinary man with all my animal instincts, pleasure and pain and reward and punishment and so on. I hear you say this. And I see what you're saying has some kind of reason, logic, and order.
Yes, well, it makes sense as far as we can see, right?
It makes sense. Then how am I to have it in my daily life? How am I to bring about, you understand, these are words which are difficult.
Yes.
All these words are time binding, but how is that possible?
Yes, without time, you see.
Yeah, is it possible for me, with my narrow mind, with my etc., to have this insight so that that pattern of life is broken? As we said the other day, we have tried all this. Every form of self-denial. And yet that insight doesn't come about. It may have, I may have once in a while a partial insight, but the partial insight is not the whole insight, but therefore still partial darkness.
Yeah, well, if it doesn't dispel the center of the self, we'll say it is not adequate. You know, it may dispel some darkness in a certain area, but the source of the darkness, the creator of it, you say the sustainer of it is
It's still there.
Yeah.
What shall I do? This is wrong question. This leads nowhere. So we have stated the general plan, right? And I have to make the moves, or make no moves at all. I haven't the energy. I haven't the capacity to see it quickly. Because this is immediate, not just something I practice and get, right? I haven't got that capacity. I haven't got that sense of urgent immediacy. Everything is against me. My family, my wife, my society, everything. And does it mean that I eventually have to become a monk?
No, it's clear that becoming a monk is the same as becoming anything else. It's
That's right. So becoming a monk is like becoming a businessman.
Yeah.
Right. That's sort of good. So what? You see, so I see all this, verbally as well as rationally, intellectually. But I can't capture this thing. And you don't help me. Or the X doesn't help me. I'm just left. is there a different approach to this problem? I'm always asking the same question because I'm caught in the same pattern. So I'm asking myself, is there a totally different way, I'm using the word for the moment, the word, a totally different way of moving or approaching the whole turmoil of life. You follow, sir?
Yeah.
Is there a different manner of looking at it? Or is this the only way? You follow?
Yes, well.
We are saying as long as the center is creating darkness and thought is operating in that darkness, there must be disorder. There must be everything as society now is. And to move away from that, you must have insight.
Yeah.
Insight can only come about when there is a flash, sudden light which abolishes not only the darkness, but the creator of darkness.
Yes.
Right. Now, I'm asking, that seems so absolute,
Right.
right? And I'm asking myself, is there a different approach to this question altogether?
Well, possibly. I mean, when you say it seems absolute, do you mean you want a less absolute approach, or?
There's the way that it is so.
It is so, but I mean, I didn't quite, it was not clear what you meant by it seems so absolute.
I mean, there is no other.
There's no other way.
There is no other way.
Yeah. But then you say maybe there is another way.
Huh?
Then you're suggesting maybe there is
I'm
another.
asking,
Yes.
if that is the only way, then I'm doomed.
Yes, you can't produce this flash at will, right?
I've been through, I
Yeah.
produced through will, through sacrifice, through every form of human effort. That's out. We're finished with all that. We finished with all that 2 or 3 weeks ago. And also we came to a point, to X, this insight seems so natural. And why is it not natural to others? That was one of the points we raised.
Yes.
Why is it natural to X and not so to others? If we could find that,
Yes.
sir.
Well, let's say that if you begin with the child, and it seems natural to the child to respond with his animal instincts with
Yes.
great intensity, which sweep him away. He no longer, darkness arises because it's so overwhelming.
Yes, but why is that with X?
All right, but I mean, why is it? First of all, it seems natural. You say it seems natural to most people that this would happen, yeah? That the animal instincts would take
Yes,
over. Right?
that's right. That seems so natural. the
That
animal
seems very
instinct.
natural, and they would say the other fellow is unnatural,
Yes,
right? And therefore, that's the way mankind has been thinking, saying if there are indeed any such other people, they must be very unusual and unnatural in some
that's
sense.
it.
Yeah.
That is, human beings have been acting according to this one pattern. responding to hatred by hatred and so on. There are those few, perhaps many, who say that is not.
Yes.
Why has this division taken place? If this is natural, that is hate,
Or even
what am I battling? What is one battling against
Yes.
it?
See, if you say pleasure and pain and fear and hate are natural, then the people say we must battle to control it because they will destroy us. You see, they say the best we can hope for is to control it with reason or with
Yeah,
some other way.
But that doesn't get
We've
us.
gone into all that.
Yes. So I'm now.
Yeah. Now you say, someone else says that the other way is natural.
Yes.
And now what? You see?
If that is natural, are the few the privileged? By some miracle, by some strange chance event?
You know, many people say that, you know, they say that, many people would say that they're unusual in some way. I mean, not...
No, that goes against one's grain.
Yes.
I wouldn't accept that.
Yes, well then if that is not the case, then you have to say, why is there the difference?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yes. I mean,
Because X is born of the same parents.
yeah, we say they're fundamentally the same, but why do they behave differently?
Differently, yes. This question has been asked many times over and over again in different parts of the world. Now why? Why is there this division? I can't find out.
Right.
Well, is the division really total? You see, because even that man who says to respond with, to hatred with hatred, he nevertheless sees that it doesn't make sense. He also sees that it is wrong. So even though he says it is natural, he at the same time says it's not natural. It should be different.
About that, it should be different, but he's still battling with ideas, with thought.
That's right, but it's not entirely natural. If it were entirely natural, he would say, okay, that's just the way we live. He wouldn't even try to get out of it. You know, you see what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah, well, I understand that, but he's trying to get out of it by the exercise of thought which breeds darkness.
Well, but he doesn't understand that.
We have explained.
Yes. Well, I just want to say that the division does not seem to be so entire. You see, it seems...
Oh yes, sir. Division is entire, complete.
Well,
we
then,
talked about the other day.
But then why are not people just saying, well, okay, let's live that way, let's kill each other and let's enjoy it to the last
Because
moment?
they can't see any other thing except their own darkness.
But they want to get out of it.
No, wait a minute, sir. Do they want to get out of it?
At least they say so.
Do they actually realize the state they are in and deliberately want to get out of it?
I think so.
They're ambivalent about it. They want to go on getting the fruits of it, but they have a hunch it's wrong, that it leads to suffering for them.
Well, or else they find they can't help it. You see that that when the time comes to get angry, or pleasure or something,
They
carried
can't
away.
help it. Yeah, we've been through that.
Yeah.
But they want to get out of it. They can't help it. They are helpless. They are forces which are stronger than even their will.
So what shall we do? Or this division is false.
Well, that's the point to say that Well, it would be better to call it a difference. I mean, you see,
Huh?
I think it would be better to call it a difference between these two.
Yes,
With this
the
division,
difference.
this difference is not fundamental. I mean, as what you see. One idea is to say it's a difference which is absolute. You know, there's no way, there's nothing in common.
I don't think there's anything in common.
What? Yes, but if you say the difference is false, or the division is false,
Yes.
you say fundamentally they are the same, is what you mean, but a difference has developed between them.
Huh?
You mean, it would mean, if you say that this division is false, yet you say fundamentally, you mean fundamentally they are the same,
Yes.
right? But a difference has developed between them. You see, perhaps one
Yes.
has taken a
Yes.
wrong turn.
Yes. Let's put it that way. Yes.
But the difference is not intrinsic. It is not structural, built in like the difference between a tree and a rock,
Right. Yes.
You see,
Then-
a tree cannot become a rock, it's...
Yes, as you say, difference. There is vast between rock and a tree,
yeah,
but it's not like that.
yeah,
Then what?
yes.
Are we trying to find out, sir? Let's be simple. Are we trying to find out? There are two. They start from the source, and one has taken one direction, the other has taken
Yeah.
another direction, right? But the source is the same.
Yes.
Why haven't all of them moved in the right direction?
Yes, well, we haven't answered that. I mean, we see that.
Huh?
We haven't managed to answer that.
Yeah, we are trying to answer
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
Let's get back to that. Huh?
I was going to say, if you understand that, then that means that going back to the source, we do not have to take the wrong turn. You see that in some sense we are continually taking the wrong turn. Mm-hmm. So if we can understand this wrong turn,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
then it becomes possible to change
Yes, sir.
everything.
I get
right?
it.
Right?
That is, we start from the same source. Mm-hmm. A takes one turn.
We're continually starting from the
Huh?
same. We are continually starting from the same source, not going back in time to a source. Is that right?
Just a minute. Just
So
a
there are
minute.
two possible ways of taking your statement. One is to say the source is in time, far back in the past. We started together and we took different paths. The other is to say the source is timeless, and we are continually taking the wrong turn
Yes.
again and again, right?
Yes. We cut out time.
Yes.
Therefore, it is constantly the wrong turn.
Constantly the wrong turn, yes.
Why?
Yeah.
Which means there is also the constant possibility of the right turn.
What?
There's the constant possibility of making the right turn.
Yes. Of course. That's it. That's it. We are getting a little more clear. That is, if we say this source from which we all began, therefore it's fixed, then
It's
we
way
are
back
caught
there.
in time.
Yeah, well, it's not. You can't go back. Right?
Can't go back. That's out. Therefore it is, we are apparently taking the wrong time all the time.
Yes, constantly. Yes, constantly. Right?
Constantly, let's put it that way. Constantly taking the wrong turn. Why? The one, I'm just going to it a little bit, the one who is not operating not living with, one who is living with insight and the other not living with insight, these are constant. Mm-hmm. And the man who is living in darkness can move away at any time to the other.
Yeah.
That's the point. At any time.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, and nothing holds him except taking the wrong turn constantly.
Yes.
But then you could say the darkness is such he doesn't see himself taking.
What?
He doesn't see himself taking the wrong turn because it is dark.
Of his darkness, yes. Is this right, sir? Are we pursuing the right direction, right questioning? You have that insight. Suppose you have that insight, and your darkness center, the very center of darkness, has been dispelled completely. And I listen to you, and I'm a serious, fairly intelligent, not neurotic human being. I listen to you. And whatever you have said seems so reasonable, rational, sane. I question the division. That's what I'm...
All right, yes.
You follow, sir?
All right, question the division.
I question the division. The division is created by the center which creates darkness.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, it's the same as the other divisions. It's thought, right?
Yes. Thought has created this division.
Mm-hmm.
The other man said there is no division. I don't know if I'm...
Yeah. Yes, well, in the darkness, thought creates this,
that's
sustains this division, right?
You say, you who have the insight and etc., you say there is no division.
Yes, then in the division, in the see, from the darkness, a shadow is thrown
Yes,
to make a
yes,
division, right?
Yes. I won't accept that. Because in my darkness is nothing but division. So, I, living in darkness, have created the division. I think that's right. As I have created it, my thought...
That's right, constantly creating.
Constantly creating
it.
division. That's right. Constantly creating division. And so I'm always wanting to live constantly in a stage in which there is no division.
Yes.
Right? But that movement is still the movement of darkness.
Yes. It's,
right?
yes.
How am I to dispel this continuous darkness, constant darkness? That is the only question, because as long as that exists, I create this constant division. Right?
Yes.
So what is the... See, this going round and round in circles. Which is, I can only dispel the darkness through
yes.
insight.
Yeah.
And I cannot get that insight by any effort, will, and so on, so on. So I'm left with nothing. Right? So what is my problem? My problem is to perceive the darkness, to perceive the thought that is creating darkness, and to see that the self is the source of this darkness. Why can't I see that? Why can't I see it even logically?
Well, it's clear logically. It's
Yes, but somehow that doesn't seem to operate.
Mm-hmm.
So what shall I do? I realize, for the first time, that the self is creating the darkness, which is constantly breeding division. I see that very clearly.
yes, and the division produces the darkness.
It's vice versa, back and forth. And from all that, everything all begins. Now, I see that very clearly. What shall I do? So I don't admit division. Right, sir?
Krishnaji, aren't we introducing division again, nevertheless, when we say there is the man who needs insight?
He has insight.
Yes?
X has insight. And he has explained to me very clearly how darkness is banished. I listen to him, and I see, and he says, darkness is creating the division. Actually, there is no division. No division as light and darkness. And so, he asked me, can you put away this sense of division?
Yes, but now you see, in a way you seem to be bringing back a division by saying that I should do it, you see.
No. Not should.
No, but I mean can, or that I see. In a way, you're saying that. Suppose we say that the thought process or the mind seems to spontaneously introduce division, and then you say, "We'll try to put it aside," while it's at the same time it's trying to make division. Do you see?
No, sir. I understand that question, but can my mind put away division? Or is that a wrong question?
Can it put away division as long as it's divided and in darkness?
What?
Can it put away division as long as it is?
No, it can't. So what am I to do?
But there we are introducing the division again.
What? No. I listen. It's not. He says something so extraordinarily true, which has immense significance and beauty, and my whole being says, capture it. It's not a division.
But it seems the division seems to be immediate. When I feel there is something which I want to capture.
It is not. I recognize that I am the creator of division. Right, sir? Because I am living in darkness. And so out of the darkness I create. But I have listened to X who says there is no division. And I recognize that's an extraordinary statement. So, in saying that to me, who have lived in division, constant division, that very saying has an immediate effect on me. Right?
Yes, I think that one has to, if you say put away the division, it seems
I will leave that.
Yeah,
I won't put away.
but I mean,
that statement.
Yes, which statement?
That there is no division.
There is
between...
no division. Yes, there is no division, right?
Yeah.
And therefore, there's no need to think division.
No.
Right.
I want to get at this little bit. I'm getting somewhere with it. Your statement that there is no division, because you have this insight, which, etc., etc. That very statement has a tremendous effect on me. I have lived constantly in division. And you come along, say, after discussing several, you say there is no division. What effect has it on me? You understand my question? It must have some impact on me. Otherwise, what should you are talking?
Yes.
You are saying anything.
Right. But then, let's say you say there is no division. It makes sense. On the other hand, it seems that that the division exists. You see that
I recognize
there's this
division
contradiction.
exists.
Yes.
But your statement that there is no division has a tremendous impact on me. That seems so natural, isn't it? When I see something that is immovable, it must have some effect on me. When you say it is so, you follow what I'm trying to get at. I respond to it with a tremendous shock. I wonder if I'm conveying anything.
Yes, you see, if you were talking about something which was, say, in front of us and said, no, it's not that way, right? And then, see, we would look at it and say, no, it's not that way, you see. And then that would, of course, change your whole, that would change your way of, your whole way of seeing it.
Yes.
Now you say, this division is not that way. I say, yes, and then we try to look and say, is that so? Right?
I don't even say, is that so? You who have very carefully explained the whole business, and you say at the end of it, there is no division. You understand my question? And I am sensitive, watched very carefully, all the rest, realize I'm constantly living in division. When you make that statement, I think it has broken the pattern. I don't know if you follow what I'm trying to express.
Saying at least for that moment it breaks the pattern.
It has broken the pattern. Because he has said something which is so fundamentally true. There is no God and man. Right, I stick to that. I see something in that. Which we said the other day, where hate exists, the other is not. Right? But hating, I want the other.
Yes.
Right? So, constant division, division is born out of darkness. And the darkness is constant. And you come along and tell me, because I've been very carefully listening to you. I'm not just a casual listener. I'm not just a person who just says, well, I come this afternoon, tell me all about it, and I want to. It has been my lifetime. And you make a statement which seems so absolutely true. You follow? That makes some, enters into me. Therefore, this act has dispelled darkness. The act of his statement dispelled the darkness. I wonder if I'm capturing something. I think it does. I'm not making an effort to get rid of darkness, but you are the light. Therefore, that's why, sir, I'm holding it. So it comes to something which is, can I listen with my darkness? In my darkness, which is constant, in that darkness can I listen to you? Of course I can.
But is it then still darkness?
Huh?
Is it then still darkness?
No, don't bother. No. I'm living in constant division which brings darkness. Somebody else comes along and tells me there is no division. Oh boy, look at it.
Right, now why do you say you can listen in the darkness?
Huh?
I say you've just said you can listen in the darkness.
Yes, sir.
Right, well that's, that needs some...
Oh yes, I can listen in darkness. If I can't, I'm doomed.
No, but that's no argument, I mean...
No. I mean, of course, that's no argument, but that is so. If I'm constantly living in darkness,
No, well, it's clear that we've gone into it that constant living in darkness is, not worthwhile. But now we say that it is possible to listen in the darkness now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Listen, it isn't that I'm... of course, sir.
This holds with what you say, that there is no division.
Listening is not division.
Right. If there were division, I couldn't listen.
But I am in division.
That's right.
But no, sir, you're missing the point. He says there is no division. He is the flat to me. I wonder if I'm making clear. Oh no, this is...
Yeah. Can we make it a little bit more clear? Can you make it?
He says inside all that he explains very, very carefully to me, what insight is. I won't go into all that over and over again. He explains to me very, very carefully. And I've been listening to him in my darkness. But that's making me more and making me sensitive, alive, watching. Right? That's what I've been doing. We've been doing that together. And he makes a statement, there is absolutely no division. And I know that I'm living constant division. See, that very statement has put the constant movement to an end. I wonder if I'm... Yes, sir. Otherwise, if this doesn't take place, I have nothing to, you follow? I'm perpetually living in darkness. A man's voice in the wilderness, and listening to that voice has an extraordinary effect in wilderness. I don't know if I'm...
And I was saying that listening reaches the source of the movement. Listening reaches the source of the movement.
Movements, yes, sir.
Whereas observation apparently does not, right?
Yes. I've observed, I've listened, I've played all kinds of things all my life. And I've done everything that human being has invented or is inventing. And I am now there is only one thing, that there is this constant darkness, and I am acting in the darkness. It's in this wilderness which is darkness, which is the source, which is whose center is the self. I see that absolutely. I mean absolutely, completely. You can't argue against it anymore. And you come along and tell me this. Sir, see what happens? Yes, sir. In that wilderness, a voice says there is water. You follow? It's not hope. It's not, there is immediate action in me. Yes. Uchi, sir, would you say, and this is again, one must realize, understand any word, that this constant movement in darkness is my life. So, would I admit that, sir? You follow what I'm saying? Would I realize? Can I realize, with all my experience, with all my knowledge, with all my etc., for a million years, suddenly realize that I'm living in total darkness? Nobody will admit that. because that means I've reached the end of all hope, right?
Yeah.
My hope is also darkness. You've cut future altogether. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm left with this enormous darkness, and I'm there. No, sir. That means the realization of that is the ending of becoming. Right?
Yes.
And I've reached that point, and X tells me, naturally, sir. You see, all of them, all the religions, have said this division exists. God and Son of God.
Yes, well, they say it can be overcome.
Which is,
Yes.
no, it is the same pattern repeated.
Yes. Well, I mean, I don't know whether the Indian religions haven't said
I'm not sure that, I
what
don't
they've
think,
said.
I don't know, I wouldn't know, but I've discussed this with some pundits.
But
I doubt it. No, I doubt it very much. Doesn't matter who said. But the fact is, somebody in this wilderness is saying something, and that in that wilderness I've been listening to every voice, right, sir? And my own voice, which is creating more and more darkness. Yes, this is right. That means, sir, does it? When there is insight, there is no division.
yes.
Huh? It's not your insight or my insight, it is insight. In that there is no division. Huh?
Yeah.
Which means, sir, do I understand this? That the ground, which we talked about,
What about the ground?
in that ground, there is no darkness, as light as light. Huh? What is that?
Well,
If on that ground there is no division, and so it is not. We've been through all that. Just recapture for. It's not born of will, of time, of thought, and all that. So, in that division ground,
You're saying light and darkness are not divided, right?
Right.
That, which means to say that there's neither. Huh?
Neither. That's it. That's it. There's something else. You see, you come along and tell me this extraordinary fact. To me, it's an extraordinary fact. I realize it with all my being that what you say is true. True not merely verbally, but it is so. And there is a perception that there is a different movement which is non-dualistic.
No.
Right?
You mean non-dualistic means what? No division, or
no division. I won't use non-dualistic. They use that in India.
Yeah.
Terrible. There is no division.
But movement, nevertheless.
Huh?
Nevertheless, there is movement.
Movement, of course.
Yes, what does that mean now without division? You say?
Movement means, I mean by that movement, it's not time.
Yeah.
That movement doesn't breed division. So I want to go back to the ground, lead to that. If there is neither darkness or light, which is mere, which is really a tremendous division, right? On that ground, there is no division. So, that ground is not God or the Son of God, or there is no division. So what takes place? Would you say, sir, that ground is movement?
Well, it could be, yes. But we say movement that's undivided, without division.
No.
What?
No.
Well, you
no.
say before that there's movement, right?
No, I say there's movement in darkness.
Yes, but we said that there's no division of darkness and light.
Yes.
And yet you said there is movement.
Yes. Would you say the ground is endless movement?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Yes. What does that mean?
Well, it's not clear. I mean, it's hard to express, but
Huh?
it is difficult to express.
I think we're going to it. Let's express it. I'm off somewhere else. Just a minute, come back. What is movement, sir?
Yes. Well,
Apart from here to there, apart from time, is there any other movement? Right?
yes.
There is the movement from being to becoming. Psychologically, there is the movement of distance, there is the movement of time. We say those are all divisions. Is there a movement which is non-divisive, which in itself has no division? There is, when you have said that statement.
Yes.
You follow, sir? When you have made that statement that there is no division, it is that movement, surely. Right? I don't know if you're...
Yes, well, you're saying that when there is no division, then that movement is there, right?
Yes, yes. And I said, we said, X says, that is the ground.
Right.
You see, again, would you say it is, these are words, has no end, no beginning, huh?
Yes.
Which means again time.
Well, it has, yes, but...
No, put me something. Look, sir.
Can I ask, can one say that movement has no form?
Oh, all that. Oh, no form, no that. I'm not talking.
Cannot have
I want to go a little. No. What I'm asking is, we said that when you have stated that there is no division, which means no division in movement.
Yes, it flows without division. It flows without division, you see.
Yeah.
Right.
When you have said that, you have pointed out to me something. It's a movement in which there is no division.
Yes.
Do I capture the significance of that? You understand what I mean? Do I understand the depth of that statement? A movement in which there is no division, which means no time, no distance as we know it, no element of time in it at all. So, I'm trying to see, sir, is that division, is that movement is it pushing man? Wait a minute, I'm just using wrong words. Is it surrounding man?
Yes, enveloping.
Enveloping man?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm...
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm missing. I want to get at this. I'm concerned with man, man,
Mankind, right?
mankind, humanity, which is me. You have made X. X has made several statements, and I've captured a statement which seems so absolutely true, that there is no division. And which means there is no action which is divisive.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I see that. And also I see is that movement without time, etc. It seems that is the world. You follow?
What do you mean? What do you mean by the universe, right? The
cosmos, the
yes,
whole,
all of it.
heaven,
The
everything.
totality, right?
Huh?
The totality, the whole of it.
Totality. You know, isn't there a statement, sir? In the Jewish world, Only God can say I am.
No, that's the way the language goes. The language is built. The language is built that way.
Yes,
It
yes.
is not necessary to state it.
No, no, I understand. You follow what I'm trying to
Yeah.
What am I trying to say?
Well, that only this movement is. I mean, it's.
You see, sir, can the mind be of that movement? Because that is timeless, therefore deathless.
Yes, the movement is without death. Right?
Death.
Insofar as the mind takes part in that, it is
Yes,
the
sir.
same, right?
You understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
But then what dies when the individual said? But when
And it has no meaning even.
yes,
Because when once I've understood there is
Yes.
no division,
then it's not important.
there is, death has no meaning.
Well, not at this depth. I mean, it still has a meaning in some other context.
Oh, I mean, the ending of body.
Yeah.
That's totally trivial. But you understand, if your statement, I want to capture the significance of it. Your statement saying there is no division has broken the spell of my darkness, and I see that there is a movement, and that's all.
Right.
Which means death has very little meaning.
Yes.
You have abolished totally the fear of death. I don't know if
Yes, I understand that when the mind is partaking in that movement, or it's part of the movement, then
that's all.
Then the mind is that movement. Right?
Mind is that movement.
Will you say that matter is also that movement?
Yes, sir. I would say everything is that movement.
That's all that. Yes.
You see, in my darkness I've listened to you. That's most important. And your clarity has broken my spell. See, when you say there is no division, you abolish the division between life and death. I don't know if you're...
Yeah.
One can never say then, I'm immortal. You follow, sir?
Well, then that's part.
It's so childish.
Yeah, that's the division.
Or I'm seeking immortality, or I'm becoming. You have wiped away the whole sense of moving in darkness. I wonder if you get this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
What then would be the significance of the world? Is there significance to it?
Huh?
What is the significance of the world?
The world.
The world,
With man.
society, I mean.
Yes, it seems that when you make this statement, there is no division.
Yes?
And life is death. What then is the significance of man with all this struggle? And is
None. He's struggling in darkness. What importance has that? It's like struggling in a locked room. And that's the whole point.
Mm-hmm. Well, only significance can only arise when the darkness is dispelled. I mean, that's
Yeah, of course.
or the only significance is the dispelling of the darkness?
No.
No, but aren't we going to say that something more can be done besides dispelling darkness?
All that you have done to me, who have listened very carefully to everything that you have had insight, etc., you have dispelled the center. So in darkness I can invent a lot of significances. That there is light, there is God, there is beauty, there is this, it's still in the area of darkness. Caught in a room full of darkness, and I can invent a lot of pictures. No, but I want to get something else, which is the mind of man, is the mind of the one who has this insight, therefore dispel darkness, and therefore has understanding of that ground which is movement without time and so on, then that mind itself is that movement.
Yes, but it isn't the totality of them. I mean, you see here, yes, the mind is the movement, but we're saying movement is matter, movement is mind.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. And movement and we were saying that the ground may be beyond the universal mind. We were saying earlier that the movement, that the ground.
Yeah, the ground.
Is more than the universal mind still.
Yes, sir.
More than the emptiness.
More than, we said that.
Yes,
much more.
Much more. But it contains, mind is, we have to get it clear. We say the mind is this movement.
Yes, mind is this movement.
But we're not saying that this movement is only mind.
No.
That's the point I was trying to get clear.
Mind is this movement. Mind in the sense, the ground.
But we're saying, the ground goes beyond the mind, is what you said.
Now just a minute. What do you mean by the mind, beyond the mind?
Well, just going back to what we were discussing a few days ago. That we said that you have the mind, we have the emptiness, you have the universal mind. And
yes.
And then the ground was...
Is that?
Well,
it's beyond that.
It's beyond that, yes.
Yes.
That.
Would you say beyond that is this movement?
Yes, that's the movement from which that the mind emerges from the movement as a ground and
that's right.
Falls back to the ground. That is what we're saying. It dies to the ground.
Yes. Mind emerges from the movement.
And it dies back into the movement.
Into the movement. That's right. It has its being in the movement.
Yes, and matter also.
Huh?
And matter.
Quite. So what I want to get at is, I'm a human being faced with this ending and beginning. And you abolished that.
Yeah, that's not fundamental anyway.
Yeah, that's not fundamental.
That's a side issue.
You have removed one of the greatest fears of life, which is death. Humans?
Yes.
See what it does to a human being when there is no death. Which means the mind doesn't age, the ordinary mind,
Yeah.
I'm talking. I don't know if I'm conveying this.
Well, let's go slowly.
Huh?
I said, let's go over it slowly. That you're saying the mind does not age,
No,
right? But what if the brain cells age?
I question it.
Yes, well, how can we know that?
Because there is no conflict. Because there is no strain. There is no becoming, moving. You follow?
Yes, well, but this is something, though, that you can't, it's hard to communicate certainty about that,
Of course.
because...
You can't prove any of this.
No, but I mean, but the other you can, what we said so far,
It can be reasoned.
it's reason, and also you can feel it yourself,
Yes,
you see.
yes.
But now you're stating something about the brain cells, which,
Yeah.
I have no feeling for, It might be so, it could be so.
I think it is so. I want to discuss it. We'll
Right.
discuss it. There's a mind which has lived in the darkness, a mind that has lived in the darkness. It is in constant,
Yes.
therefore there is the wearing out the cells,
Certainly,
decay.
yes, we could say that this conflict will cause cells to decay, but somebody might argue that perhaps even without conflict they could decay at a slower rate. You see that, say, if you were to live hundreds of years, for example, in time the cells would decay no matter what you would do.
No, I don't. I like go into this slowly.
Yeah, you see, I can readily accept that the rate of decay of cells could be cut down when you get rid of conflict. Slowed down
the
a
rate
great,
of decay can be slowed down.
perhaps a great deal.
Huh?
Perhaps a great deal.
A great deal,
Yes,
90%.
right. That we could understand. If you say 100%, it's hard to understand.
That 90%. Let's
Right.
wait a minute. It can be very, very, very greatly slowed down.
Yeah.
And that means what? What happens to a mind that has no conflict, no 90% or 80%? What is that mind? Mind in the sense, what is the quality of that mind? Which has no problem. You see, sir, there is suppose such a mind lives in pure air, unpolluted, etc., etc., right kind of food and so on, so on, so on. Why can't it live, 200 years?
Well, it's possible. I mean, some people have said to have lived up to 150.
Oh, yes.
Living in very pure air and good food. And,
But you see, those very people who have lived 150 years, if they had no conflict,
yeah,
they might live very much
they
longer.
might. So there was a case I was reading of a man in England who lived to 150. It was recorded, and the doctors became interested in him. They invited him to London and wined him and dined him. And then he died in a few days.
Poor devil.
Krishnaji, normally we say that anything that lives in time also dies in time.
Yes, but the brain, which has had insight, has changed the cells.
So are you implying in a way that even the organical brain
Yes, sir.
does not
We
live in
said
time,
that. We went into that.
does not live in time anymore? Not even in
No,
chronological time?
don't bring in time yet. What we are saying is that insight brings about a change in the brain cells. We said
I
that.
understand that.
Which means the brain cells are no longer thinking in terms of time. Right, sir?
That's psychological time.
Yeah.
Of course, with that understood.
Well, if
So-
they're not so disturbed, they will remain in order, and perhaps they will break down more slowly. You see, so you might increase the age limit to 150 to 200, if provided you also had healthy living all around.
Yes.
Yeah,
That all sounds so damn trivial, all that.
yeah, it doesn't seem to make
What?
much difference. Huh? It's an interesting idea.
What if I live another 100 years more?
Yeah. Yes. Well, the men who lived to 150, there was nothing beyond that. There was nothing unusual. You see.
Yes. What we are trying to find out is what effect has this extraordinary movement, which is on the brain. You understand, sir?
Yes. Yes, if we say the brain is in some way directly enveloped in this movement,
It is. Then
yes,
what
and
effect?
to bring it to order, I mean,
Yeah.
that there is a real, it's direct flow. I mean, but physically,
Huh?
you're saying physically, the movement,
Not only
not
physically,
only, but also mentally, right?
yes,
Both.
both. It must have an extraordinary effect on the brain.
You talked earlier about energy, Krishnaji.
Huh?
An energy, not the everyday energy, but some very private.
I mean, we said that movement is complete, total energy. We've been saying all that. Now that this insight has seen that extraordinary movement. And it is part of that energy. I want to come much closer to earth, which is, I have lived with death, fear of not being, and so on. And suddenly I see there is no division, and I understand this whole thing. So what has happened to my brain? You follow, sir? Sir, see something. Just you see this whole thing as not verbally, or you see it as a tremendous reality, truth. Not just with all your heart, mind. You see this thing. That very perception must affect your brain.
Yes. Yes, it brings the order. Yeah. It brings about order.
Not only order
What?
in life, but it must
No, I mean,
affect
if order in the brain.
in the brain.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That the brain cells now, people can prove that if you are under stress, the brain cells start to break down. You know, it's
Yes.
proved. Therefore, if you have order in the brain cells, then it's quite different.
Yes. I have a feeling, sir, just don't laugh at it. It may be true, false, it may be true. I feel that the brain never loses the quality of that movement. I don't know if I'm...
Yes, well, if it has it, you mean?
Huh?
Once it has it.
Oh, of course. Okay, I'm talking of the person who's been through all this and so on.
Yes, it probably never loses that quality.
That quality, that
Somehow.
therefore it's no longer evolving in time.
Yeah, well, I don't know what that means. I mean, it would no longer be dominated by time. You see
Yes.
that the brain, from what we're saying, is not evolving in any sense. Anyway, it's just confusion. That you can't say that man's brain has evolved since the last 10,000 years. You can't say that there was any real evolution in the last 10,000 years of the brain, because you go back, it's the same. You see, science, knowledge has evolved, but people felt the same about life several thousand years ago as they do now.
So I want to find out, which is, in that silent emptiness what we went through, is the brain absolutely still? You understand my question?
Yeah, well, that's not what I mean absolutely, you see, because...
I mean, in a sense, no movement.
Well, yes, we have to discuss this before one. Say the blood is flowing inside the brain, you
Yes,
see,
I'm
that is
not
movement.
talking of that.
Yeah, well, what kind of movement are we discussing?
I'm talking of movement of thought, movement of
All right.
any reaction, nothing.
Yes, okay, there's no movement in which the brain moves independently. You know, you're saying there's the movement of the whole,
Yes.
but the brain does not go off on its own.
No.
By thought, you see.
You see, you have done a tremendous act, which is you have abolished death. Which is a tremendous thing in significance. And so I say, what is the brain, the mind, the brain, when there is no death? You follow? Huh? It is quite it's undergone a surgical operation.
Well, let's go in that. I see what we talk about the brain normally has the notion of death continually there in the background.
In the background, absolutely.
And now that notion is disturbing the brain constantly.
Yes, sir.
Because the brain foresees that death and it's trying to stop it.
Yes, and ending up itself and so on.
Yeah, so it foresees all that. It
Yeah.
says I must stop it, and it can't. Right?
It can't.
No, and therefore it has a problem it can't solve.
Constant struggle with it.
Yeah, in the background.
Background. So all that has come to an end. What an extraordinary thing you have done. You follow what I'm saying? How does that affect my daily life? Because I have to live on this earth. How does it affect my life? My daily life. Yes. My daily life is aggression. This everlasting becoming successful, all that has gone. Huh? What an extraordinary thing has taken place. You follow, sir? Last day tomorrow, Saturday.
Saturday, yeah.
We'll pursue this. But we have understood a great deal today.
Yes, in bringing in the question of daily life, you might bring in the question of compassion. You see how it...
Of course, all right.
Right.
You see, that's, you see, is that movement, you see, the compassion will become rather, is that movement compassion?
Well, it would be beyond, but...
Yeah, that's it.
but
That's why one must be awfully careful.
yeah. But again, it should emerge. Compassion might emerge out of it.
Yes.
And
Of course, if you haven't got that,
Yeah.
you can skim on. We better stop because